Thank you, Chair Porter. Thanks for the note of congratulations as well, and more importantly, your comments about the late Representative Don Young. Don Young was an individual that cared deeply about this institution. My first conversations with him reflected his desire for good working order and for us to be able to find ways to solve some of America's biggest problems. So thank you for that note. First, before I give my remarks, I ask unanimous consent that Mr. Rosendale of Montana, Mr. Gonzalez of Texas, and Mr. Biggs of Arizona be allowed to participate in today's hearing.
So ordered.
Thank you. And again, thank you. Today's hearing on the opioid crisis draws attention to a somber milestone for our nation. Tragically, a record-breaking number of more than 100,000 people in the United States died of a drug overdose between April 2020 and April 2021 in one calendar year. In other words, approximately 274 Americans died each day from drugs during the last 12 months. This crisis is impacting communities across the United States. In 2014, my home state of Utah was hit particularly hard by the opioid pandemic. We had the fourth highest number of overdose deaths in the nation. My state then dedicated resources to combat the epidemic and significantly decrease overdose deaths. I think we all can agree that treatment options and education are important aspects of addressing the opioid epidemic, but these steps alone are not enough. To effectively combat this opioid crisis, we must disrupt the supply of drugs flowing into our communities and address the clear threats cartels pose to our neighborhoods and tribal communities. The American Medical Association identified three drugs, fentanyl, methamphetamine, and cocaine, as the drugs driving the overdose epidemic. These are the very same drugs that agents are seizing at our southern border. In this fiscal year alone, U.S. Customs and Border Protection reports confiscating more than 4,200 pounds of fentanyl, more than 77,000 pounds of methamphetamine, and more than 23,000 pounds of cocaine. These outrageous numbers should alarm anyone who cares about this crisis. Cartels are responsible for bringing these drugs into our communities. The Drug Enforcement Agency's 2020 National Drug Threat Assessment identified Mexican transnational criminal organizations as, quote, the greatest drug trafficking threat to the United States, end quote. Additionally, the DEA identified Mexican criminal organizations as the primary source of illicit substance on Indian reservations. Not only do the cartels make drugs available on reservations, but they also exploit tribal lands in their trafficking efforts. For example, the Tohono O'odham Reservation, colloquially also referred to as TO Reservation, covers about 4% of the southwest border. Mexican cartels utilize the remoteness of the highways on this reservation to traffic drugs across the border. To combat the cartel's operations and protect American families, we must ensure our law enforcement officers have the support they need. In addition to the work of Border Patrol agents, we've seen the effectiveness of targeted policing efforts. For example, in 2018, the Interior Department created the Joint Opioid Task Force to address the threat opioids pose to tribal communities. The following year, the task force reported seizing more than 2,000 pounds of illegal narcotics. During one operation, the task force disrupted a Mexican cartel's smuggling efforts with the TO Nation and confiscated 30,000 fentanyl pills. Law enforcement operations for drug interdiction, however, also necessitates increased border security. Mr. Art Del Cueto joins us today. He's a 19-year veteran Border Patrol agent. From his experience patrolling the TO reservation, Mr. Cueto will provide the committee with first-hand account of the crisis at the southern border and associated cartel activity. As the Department of Homeland Security prepares for yet another surge of people attempting to cross the border, we must call attention to all the consequences of President Biden's decisions. One of those consequences is diverting Border Patrol agents from their post to assist with processing of illegal immigrants. As a result, cartels are given a prime opportunity to evade detection and traffic illicit drugs across the border. After exploiting our nation's open border, cartels will funnel deadly drugs into the nation. Until our southern border is secured and cartel activity is curtailed, the opioid crisis will rage on. If we want to end the crisis, we must get the people the help they need to recover, but that's only part of it. We need to secure the border, prevent drug smuggling, and cut off the supply killing American communities. And with that, I yield back.